let the guys get started talking, but it's important to start with some context about, the fact that nobody comes out of nowhere. There was Detroit was a certain kind of environment that led to this kind of creativity. So with that, I want to take a minute and introduce you to everyone. To my right is Bobby Duncan, who is the new guitarist for Death. Next to him is Bobby Hackney. Next to him is Dennis Hackney, original members of the band Death. So can we welcome them here today?
Thank you. Thank you.
Like I said, 1975 in Detroit. You guys want to talk a little bit about that? It's like the 70s in Detroit, and Motown's cranking out hits, and here you guys are thinking about some rock. What? Talk about that a little bit.
Well, 1975, it's interesting being right here in Austin. Me and Dennis, we were talking about that as we was driving around. We was like, wow, man, this kind of looks like Detroit in the early 70s when we used to go downtown and we used to hang out at Kennedy Square. And on any given day, you could see, all kinds of musicians and Motown acts. And we used to, see David Ruffin walking around town, or you'd see one of the Supremes, or you'd see, just anybody from Motown, or even every once in a while you'd see a member of a band. You might see Mark Farner from Grand Funk Railroad or somebody like that, and it was just magical. It was the Motor City. It was basically, when we were coming up in Detroit, you basically had three choices. Either you worked in the automobile industry, or you were a musician, or you were a bum. So it was when you're a young person, that's basically what it was to us,
From everything I've read, from talking to you guys, it was clearly David had this vision for what you guys could be and what Death could be, and where did he get that, and what made him hold fast to that, through the years?
Well, Dave was really artistic. David, he was just one of these kind of people that could pick up something just right off. David used to paint walls, and everybody in the family would tell David, man, you could make $1 million painting. And he would do all this artistic stuff, but he never cared. Never cared about holding jobs, never cared about school, never cared about... David got all his education on the Detroit streets. He used to hang out with all the old blues players. And me and Dennis would go to school, and David would be in the corner playing guitar. And when we came back home, he would be in that very corner still playing guitar. He had this vision of Death being not the gory type of thing, but from the negative to the positive. Mm-hmm. Because when he first told us, he says, man, we got to name our band. He said, I got a great name for our band, guys. We come, Dennis come home from work, I come home from school, he says, guys, I got it. He said, we got a great name for the band. And we expect this for some real name that's, I don't know, just something that was real rock and roll. He says, I got it. He says, Death.
Me and Bob just looked at each other.
Like this.
What do you mean?
David, Death? He said, man, I'm telling you, Death, man. Death. He said, nobody else has that name. Death, man. He said, when people see, when you say that to people, they know what you mean. Death.
Wow.
And so it took a while. We said, okay, Dave. And he explained the vision to us, spinning from the negative to the positive. And we said,
that part
okay.
we did buy.
We were in.
Let's skip forward and talk about, you guys have the band now, and Groovesville is shopping you. Talk about the record deal it almost was.
Well, Don Davis, we signed up with Groovesville, and it's an interesting story. I don't know if you heard the story about how David found Groovesville. He took the phone book, because we were recording all this music, and was like, okay, man, we got to find a manager or a producer or somebody to work with. And David took the phone book, big Detroit Yellow Pages, nailed it to the wall, and took a dart, opened it up to all the producers and the recording studio sections. He took a dart and just threw it at the phone book. And the dart landed on Groovesville Productions.
So we called him up. 6 months later, we were signing a deal with him.
Yeah, and it was interesting. The audition was just priceless. I think that was one of the most fun times I had because Brian Spears was Don Davis, kind of like he was second under command at Groovesville. So all the new artists that came through had to come through Brian Spears. And if Brian liked him, then he would have a meeting with Don and they would decide to sign him. And so back then, you see, you didn't come in with a cassette or even a CD or nothing. You had reel-to-reel. All the producers and all the people had reel-to-reel tapes. Right. So we came in with our little 3M reel-to-reel, and Brian looked at us, and David dressed up, you know, especially for the occasion. He put on a stocking cap and some mirror sunglasses, and David sit there just as coolly, I mean, looking like the most total weird thing that you ever want to see in 1974. And so Brian put the tape on, and it was a demo of Politicians in My Eyes and Keep On Knocking. And he put the tape on, and he listened to the tape. He was looking at the tape. He was going his head. Then he looked over at us, and he looked at David. And he looked at the tape again. And he looked at us. And he said, yeah, he says, let me get back with you guys. He said, let me keep the tape. I'll get back with you guys. And then about a week and a half later, we got a call, and he says, hey, you know, Don liked what he heard. We like what we hear. He says, Don Davis is not thrilled about the name, which we totally, you know, that didn't catch us by surprise. He says, but he says, we're gonna try you guys out. So they signed us up with a 12 deal, with a 12-side agreement, which means that we were to record 12 tracks at United Sounds. We met a lot of interesting people at United Sounds. It was a great story. Gladys Knight was doing some tracks with Don Davis, and we really wanted to meet Gladys Knight. And Gladys Knight said, she asked Don Davis, she said, who are those guys? She said, yeah, that's this band we signed up called Death. And she locked the door. She
did. She actually did. She locked the door.